I get asked this all the time. Traci, can I use manifestation to pass my test or exam? And of course you can. And I'm going to tell you exactly how in this video, just like my client did. My client had a huge test to take for her job, her position, basically her whole job depended on her passing this one test. So she did what any of us would do. She started prepping, she started studying. For months she was learning modules and prepping and taking, test after each module. She did the prep, okay? She took the practice test and she failed her practice test, but when it came time to take her actual test, she passed. First try. And I'm going to walk you through the 2 things we work to change in session, in our one-on-one sessions, that turned the whole thing around for her. And yes, you can apply this to taking tests, but you can also apply this exact method that I taught her to anything at all that you want to manifest, anything. If you're new here, hello, I am your Muse Traci. Thank you so much for joining me on this channel. I'm really happy that you're here. On this channel, I help you unlock the power you already have but can't access. I help you break through where years of trying has failed. And the biggest hurdle of all, maybe, I help you go from intellectually knowing the law to permanently embodying it. Meaning I give you the tools to actually use this information, apply it to your life so that you can manifest the life you desire. If that sounds good to you, you're more than welcome to join me here, subscribe to the channel, and harness your own creative power. So the first thing we worked on was her assumption. Obviously, right? We have to start there. That is right? This is law of assumption. We started there with her assumption about passing tests. So, we looked at if she had any beliefs about herself that were contradictory to her passing this test. And if she did have any assumptions about why she wouldn't pass the test. And it turned out that she did. She had a concept about herself that she was bad at taking tests. Something that is common. So our first work here was to flush out any assumptions or beliefs she was carrying around whether she would or wouldn't pass the tests and any reasons why she couldn't pass the tests. And so I think this piece is pretty straightforward. And maybe most of you would know to do this part. I hope you would, because again, law of assumption. It all starts with your assumption. If you want to pass a test, you have to assume you'll pass the test. Maybe you wouldn't actually know that it's a choice you get to make. So make sure that you understand this first and foremost. You are choosing, like you're at a fork in the road, right? You can choose the fork that I don't pass the test, or you can choose the fork that says I do pass the test. When we're choosing I don't pass the test, we're not consciously choosing that, right? I don't think most people take tests that they don't want to pass. And so that's based on what? It's based on your past evidence, your past concepts of self, maybe things that people told you, oh, you're not smart enough, you're not good at this, and so this is you unconsciously still choosing, you're always choosing, but you're unconsciously choosing it because you're not basing it on your preference, you're basing it on the evidence of your past. That's unconscious. So again, really important to understand that you are always choosing. You always have an assumption, right? And it's just, what are you basing that assumption on? Are you basing that assumption on your past, your limiting beliefs, something someone else told you that you took on? That's unconscious. That's not you consciously choosing. Consciously choosing is going, I'm going to take a test and I'm going to pass that test. So you can choose this fork unconsciously, or you can choose the other fork where you just decide I am choosing the fork where I pass the test. And I get to choose. I'm always choosing whether I know it or not. So I'm choosing the path where I actually want to go. This is my preference over here. So first really key thing, again, maybe that's the obvious part, but let's not assume, because I see so many people not even knowing that they have a choice, like literally thinking like it's It's like up to the test gods or something, like whether you will be deemed worthy of taking a test. No, it's nothing like that. And actually, this story about my client proves that, because she really, she did all this preparation. She studied for months, and she took some practice tests right before the actual test, and she failed those. So, all the evidence in her reality was sort of pointing towards not passing, So if she had gone with evidence of her senses and thought that she didn't have a choice, well, then this would be her dominant assumption, and this would have been her outcome. But because of the work we did together, of course, she knew that it's not actually an evidence-based thing. The evidence doesn't have creative power. This is what circumstances don't matter actually means. Your circumstances don't have power to keep materializing. You give them power when you go, look, circumstances are this. I'm going to keep assuming this. You give the circumstances power through your assumption. That is how it is. If you could learn to break this one thing, you would set yourself free. You would be free then to choose outside of your circumstances, which is what I want for each and every one of you. So one of my favorite ways is like remembering this thing like a fork in the road, right? And remembering, like, since it's a road, let's just use the analogy of a car. You're driving the car. So which fork in the road do you want to go down? Don't pass the test? Pass the test. You can apply this to anything. Don't have enough money? Have more than enough. It's like a fork in the road, and you're driving the car. You don't have to take this road. Who says you have to take that road? You don't. I promise you, you don't. If you can set yourself free from thinking that you have to take some road, you will be free. Take the road that says there's always more than enough. You're driving the car. There's no one else driving the car. It's not a self-driving mechanism. You're driving the car. So choose. Not loving committed relationship, loving committed relationship. Choose. It's a fork in the road. Again, apply it to anything. So this is the first thing that my client worked on. Anything that came up that was telling her, I'm not going to pass, we looked at it and we dismantled it. I reminded her again and again, these circumstances don't mean anything. This is law of assumption. This is not law of circumstances. This is law of assumption. So you choose. You want to pass the test? Or sorry, pass the test is over here. You want to pass the test? Keep choosing, pass the test. I am the person that passes the test. Doesn't matter what your circumstances say. Doesn't matter how much of your evidence is denying this. You go, I am driving the car. So there's a fork in the road here. Which way am I going to go? Well, I really want to go this way. So I'm going to keep assuming that I'm going this way. Do you guys get the point? Okay. So the second thing that we worked on, which probably most people wouldn't really be aware of, was anything within her that was creating a sense of urgency or need for her to pass the test. Because as I'm sure you've heard before, you can manifest anything you want as long as you don't need it. Have you heard that? It's very true. And honestly, that's a whole topic for another video. Leave me a comment down below if you want to see a video specifically on just that. You can manifest anything as long as you don't need it. I'd be happy to make that video. So I'm sure you've heard this before, but need is a huge ball of resistance, and it's almost like repellent to whatever it is that you want to manifest, because your need is fed by doubt and disbelief. So this was actually really, really, really important to look at, because we can't just do half the work. We can't create assumptions and, have this ball of need inside of us. And this is where we had to look at some of the programming for her. Okay. So she did feel that there was something inside of her. She did feel at this time that she needed. And you could see it was tension. You could see that she was tense, and she was like, I really need to pass this test, Traci. I really need to pass this on the first go. So we worked on neutralizing any sense of needing to pass the test on the first try, because the actual circumstances were, in her job, that she didn't actually have to pass the test on the first try. And you see, I knew this because she had already told me some of the circumstances, but I could sense there was this need. So then it wasn't a need coming, it wasn't like external pressure coming at her to pass the test. You have to pass the test on the first try. No, it was an internal pressure. And I could see that with her. I could see that there was a pressure, and I knew it wasn't coming from out there because, again, she had already shared with me about her circumstances. So then I knew it was an internal pressure, and I knew it was something that we had to look at. So of course she wanted to pass the test on the first try, but the actual circumstances were that she had, I think, 3 free tries paid by her employer to pass the test. 2 or 3, I can't exactly remember at this time, but it was definitely more than 1. So there wasn't an actual external need, pressure for her to pass the first time around. But again, I could sense this need and pressure. And so we looked at, was there some internal need that was saying, I must pass the first time or else? And when we looked at this, there was an internal sense of pressure. There was an internal sense of, I have to pass it the first time to prove I'm good enough, smart enough, worthy enough. I'm enough for this position. I have to prove it that I'm worthy, and I have to pass in order to prove that I'm good enough and smart enough. And, this is the concept she could feel within herself that was creating this internal sense of pressure and need. So we did the work to neutralize this so that she felt completely relaxed around taking the test. She felt like she was already secure, already confident in her own concept about her worthiness, about being smart enough, about, being worthy of this position, being good enough, all of this independently of whether she passed the exam on the first try or not. Right? So she really had to be honest with that. And this is where I'm always telling you guys, you have to be able to look at yourself honestly. You have to be willing, so if she had self-judgment, then this internal sense of pressure might have stayed more hidden, more back into the recesses and the shadows. But she was very honest and vulnerable with what was going on. We had been working together for a while, so she kind of had the hang of this, internal, non-judgmental introspection. So she was able to look at it and see oh yeah, I am basing my sense of value and worth and, how smart I am on passing this the first time around. So you have to be able to identify this within you, look at it honestly before you can change it, right? If you're in denial that that's there, well, it's not going to go away. You're just denying it, not willing to look at it and suppressing it, but it's still there. What you resist persists. What you look at can transform. Okay. So that's exactly what she did. She looked at it honestly. It didn't take her much time at all to remember and recognize and remind herself that my value is inherent. I know I'm smart enough, right? We had already been doing self-concept work for a couple of months. So she already knew this isn't true. This is just an old programming, an old thing that I learned about myself, and I get to change it. I get to choose and say who I now am. So she pushed the test back, I think 2 or 3 times, because she really didn't feel ready. When the time came to take her test, she didn't feel ready. She also failed the practice exams 3 times right before, she was scheduled to take the actual exam. But then she finally settled on a date. She finally scheduled the exam. This all she pushed it out, but this was all in a pretty short amount of time. It was like a week and a half or something. So she did finally schedule to take the exam because she was going on vacation the next week and she really wanted to just be free from the stress of studying for this exam. All the preparation had been over months and taking the practice test and, it was a lot. She wanted to be free. She wanted to have her weekends back. So she scheduled it, and she really scheduled it before she felt ready. Okay. This is an important piece. Before she felt really confident that she could pass, and although the evidence seemed to support the reality where she would not pass the exam, she scheduled it anyway. She took it anyway. And she passed it anyway. On her very first attempt, she passed this exam. So she remained calm during the exam. She had a plan for how to approach the test. It was a very intensely timed test as well. I think she had like 1 minute for each question. Not a lot of time, but she remained calm, and she had doubts about passing leading up to the exam. And even during taking the exam, every single time she had doubt, she simply returned to her assumption that she was the person who passed the exam first try. No need, just declaration. And she did. She passed the exam. She did just that. She passed the exam on the first try. And now my client didn't pass because she finally felt ready. She passed because she stayed faithful to who she decided to be, even when she didn't feel ready, even when she still had doubt. And when she came back and told me about what she did and explained her whole process, she realized, and this is something I try to share with all of you watching all the time in every video. This isn't about being perfect. This is what she told me. I still had doubt, she said. She wasn't perfect. She had doubts, but she persevered. Every single time doubt came up, she simply remembered and reclaimed and restated her decision about who she was. And she persisted in that assumption that she's the person who passes the test. And that is all it takes. I want you all to hear this and know it. This is not about being perfect. And you can do this with anything you want. The thing sitting, heavy on your chest right now. Take a moment with it. What have you decided this situation means about you? And who would you have to remember yourself to be and stay being through your new assumption? So whatever this situation is that you want to apply this to, I want you to first, like I did with my client, first thing, know that there's a fork in the road. You're driving the car and you get to choose. Don't have my desire, have my desire. Whatever your desire is, this works with everything, you guys. Fill in the blank. Don't have my desire, have my desire. You are driving. You choose. Everything is a choice. If you're watching this video and thinking, well, okay, Traci, but that doesn't apply to this thing, whatever you think that might be, leave me a comment down below if you think there's something that this wouldn't apply to, and I'll be more than happy to respond to you and let you know it absolutely does. There are no exceptions. Okay. So remember, there's a choice here, fork in the road. Don't have it, have it. You're going to choose. You're going to assume, have it. I'm the person, have it. Now, what was the second step with my client? We had to look at need. Is there some need behind you thinking you need to have it? Because need is a repelling energy. Need is a big ball of resistance. We can't manifest what we need. You don't need anything. You're the source of everything. So you don't need. Need is doubt. You don't need anything. You simply select, like it's a huge buffet in front of you. When you walk up to a buffet, do you feel that you need something? The pizza or the whatever, sushi, the lasagna, whatever it is. Do you need it? No, you don't have need. You just select. You go, oh, and you put some of that on your plate. Calm, relax, you feel happy, you feel excited. Look at this thing I'm about to enjoy. That's how you should feel about your manifestation. There's no need necessary. But, okay, if you have need, look at what is causing the need? What is driving the need? Is there a concept that says, I don't have without this thing? Security, love, abundance, whatever it is? That's not true. You're the source of everything. So neutralize the need. You have to neutralize the need. Okay. And then once you neutralize the need, all you need to do then is persist in your assumption, regardless of what the evidence looks like, regardless of the doubt that might come up, regardless of how much, it looks like things are against you. For my client, she literally, I think 2 days before she took the final test, the actual test, She failed the practice exam like 2 days before. So the evidence didn't look good. But she ignored that. She knew that there's a fork in the road here. She's driving the car. She's going to choose, I passed the test. So that's how you do it. If you want my help doing this work the way my client did, in a real way, on any specific thing in your life that matters most, that's exactly what I do with my clients one-on-one. You can click the link down in the description and in the pinned comment where you can book a free one-on-one call with me. We can jump on that call, see if we are a good fit to work together. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. See you in the next one.